All right. Well, this is it. Big mid-season patch. Mid-season patch. This is the patch where Avatar is going to be introduced in the game. And I've never seen Avatar. For everyone in chat, anybody watching, I've never seen Avatar. I've probably seen a couple episodes of it when I was younger, when it was on Nickelodeon or whatever. But I'm not a big... I don't really like TV shows in general. I'm more of a movie person. And I have seen the Avatar movie, and that shit was amazing, wasn't it? It was amazing. Everybody loved that movie. All right, I just triggered so many people. No, it's not a good movie. I was kidding. But anyway, so many people just got mad. But yeah, so Avatar is being introduced in the game. This is really, really, really cool. Like I said, I've never seen it, but like other people are really, really excited about it, which makes me excited about it. And it's, it's just cool to see that Hi-Rez or Titan, whatever you want to call him, is doing some pretty cool stuff, working with some pretty cool things. And these skins, I mean, even though I've never seen it, or I've never like actually watched it, I've seen it. And of course, like my fiance has watched all of it and is a big fan. So the art and everything like that is really well done, and it just like looks cool. The skins look cool in game, which you've seen them. There's some other cool skins coming this patch that are pretty nice. The visual update on Ares. Look at this, freaking Kumba skin, kind of cool. Yeah, we're not here to talk about skins. A bunch of miscellaneous stuff that we're not going to go over. We don't really care too much about. Some little things that they're changing, like bug fixes as well, but I don't think any of these really apply to us or we really care about. So game modes, they're talking about ranked. I don't really care about that. Joust for duel, I don't really care about that. Conquest, they are announcing that there's going to be a new Conquest map for Season 8. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. Frost and I, the other Frost, if you guys know, and maybe some other people are going to be working on a Conquest guide that will not be affected by this change, because the point of the Conquest guide is going to make it so that, you can kind of understand Conquest from a fundamental point or foundations point. And it doesn't really matter what meta it is or whatever is going on. You'll just be able to play the Conquest map without being afraid to really understand everything and kind of just know what to do. So that will be coming out soon. We're going to be working on that during the off season. All right, so starting to get into the Conquest map. There's actually a lot of Conquest map changes in the mid-season patch, as far as the jungle especially. So starting out with the jungle shrine, now it only requires a single auto attack to fully claim the gold bounty, right? Only one auto attack and you completely destroy it. And they also increase the gold per god per stack from 5 to 10. So big buff to the jungle shrine, I would say. That's going to be a lot of extra gold throughout the game. And the jungle shrine already is like this little thing that you like ping when you're like really, really close to maybe buying an extra ward, buying a pot, or you're really close to getting an item or the tier 2 of an item. And you're like, hey, just hit that real quick. And, that's 50 gold if it's full. And boom, I'm at my item or whatever I was going for. So that 50 gold is getting increased. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm not a big fan of the jungle shrine. I do think it's kind of like a little cool thing that you can grab whenever you're really close to like whatever you need, but I don't really like it as like a thing. I don't think it needs to exist, or really should exist. So lane minions, so they basically just improved the AI of lane minions, which is always welcomed. I mean, we always see how wonky and weird the minions can act. So as long as they're improving the AI of that, that's good. So 2 good changes there. Mid lane camps of 2 small harpies has been changed to a single elder harpy. So the 2 little minis, as they were called, that the mids were getting, because mids get way too much farm, they changed it to a single elder harpy, which is less XP and less gold. So it is less XP, and it's going to be a little bit harder to clear because it's going to be a little bit more tanky and large. So I think that's a welcome change. In fact, I don't even know if there needs to. I don't even really understand why there's 2. I wouldn't say guaranteed, because you can still invade them. They're actually pretty easy to invade, especially for supports. But I just don't understand why we're giving so much free farm to like a mid laner who already has so much farm around them. They said it's to like discourage pressure meta in mid, but I never really understand why we discourage pressure. Kind of just makes the game fun from the get-go. Anyway, Gold Fury reduced hitbox size by 25%, adjusted AI for smoother pathing towards players. So the Gold Fury can also be wonky. I mean, AI pathing in general can be pretty weird in this game. and they are apparently improving it, which is good, but they also reduced the hitbox size by 25%, which is, I think, a direct fix. So there was a clip in the SPL one time where somebody stole a Gold Fury with a Fafnir hammer, but okay, so I need to find the clip. It's going to be hard to explain. So there was an Athena body blocking, right? Because, you know, the Gold Fury is getting low. The only person that's coming in to steal was a Fafnir, right? The only thing you have to do is stand in front of the Fafnir hammer and it won't hit the Gold Fury because it's body blockable, right? What ended up happening was the Fafnir hit the Athena with his hammer and also took the Gold Fury, even though the Athena was standing in front of the Gold Fury, okay? And you're like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. And the only reasoning for that is because the Gold Fury's hitbox is so big that it was able to, like, the outside of the hitbox was able to be hit while also being hit by the Athena who was body blocking, which means that it was just, like, buggy. So I think that's literally a direct fix for that. So that's pretty cool. Kind of weird that it was a thing to begin with, but okay. And this is where things get spicy. So the jungle camps, instead of just being this little camp that you walk by and auto 3 times with your golden blade and it just instantly dies, and it's just this little PvE area of the map for golden XP. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I don't know how Smite wants the game to be, but the jungle camps, they're useless. They're just something you walk over and hit and, like, get a buff. I mean, maybe levels 1 to 5 they're a little bit difficult, and that's why the jungler has to clear them a lot of the time. But, like, past that, they're just like these little camps that you just get an extra golden XP from and maybe a buff. So what they're doing is they're making them more aggressive, as they're calling it, in quotes, aggressive. So the monsters that will charge and forward and attack or use a special attack as soon as the gun enters the leash range. So that means that the buffs, now, instead of just sitting there until you hit them, they'll actually start attacking you right away. Not all of them, but the Manticores, the Chimaras, all types of Harpies, Gold Fury, and Fire Giant. So I'm pretty sure this means, like, blue buff, red buff, purple buff. All of those will start attacking you. The only ones that won't are Oracles, Pyromancer, Centaurs, and Satyrs, or Satyrs, whatever they're fucking called. So yeah, all the buffs with like an actual thing to grab from them, I think will be aggressive, and they'll start attacking you. But like mid camps, I don't think will. Wait, actually, no, they actually will, because all types of Harpies. Yeah, okay, never mind. So I think mid camps will as well. Okay. Chimera? I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I need to zoom in a little. My bad. I forgot about that. Better? That should be better. Forgot about that. So anyway, they're going to be aggressive. That is a weird little change, because if you are, like, hiding in a camp, the minions will start attacking you now instead of just sitting there. So that's going to change gameplay a little bit. If you, like, walk by a camp, they're going to come up to you and try and hit you. And yeah. I'm not sure. Wait, is it just duo side that it will be aggressive? I don't know which ones are the Centaurs. I'm confused about this. I don't really know. I guess maybe all of them aren't these. Only duo? Oh, they're all duo side, so all of these are duo side? And then these are, like, solo side? Like, Speed Buff doesn't have any of these? Ah, I didn't know that. I feel like, but I guess Gold Fury and Fire Giant. So if you ever walk into Fire Giant's going to instantly hit you with something. That's actually a pretty big deal for solo, because a lot of times you'll, like, path through there and, like you're fighting somebody, you go towards fire and then, like, make them pull it. But now they don't even have to hit it. They're going to pull Fire Giant instantly because the Fire Giant's going to be aggressive. That's kind of weird. I don't know if I like that. I don't really think I like that, but it's okay. Maybe it's just like it's a gameplay change, so I'm a little bit worried about it. But anyway, we're going to move on from that. I don't want this video to be a fucking 2 hours long. So the Alfa Harpy, which is next to Dueling, the big one that takes forever to clear, is now, I think, going to be a little bit easier to clear, but it's going to attack you, and it's going to apply a 15% attack speed debuff, which is kind of crazy. It stacks up to 2 times in the last 6 seconds, so it can go up to 30%. And it lasts 6 seconds. I mean, they made it a little bit more worth to clear as well, I think, because they increased the XP for it. They decreased the gold reward, but I think increased the scaling of it. Not the scaling as far as defense, but I thought they increased the scaling reward for it. But yeah, they made it easier to clear. I feel like nobody's going to want to hit this anyway, but maybe they will. But basically, I mean, like, it's the theme of this is that a lot of camps and stuff are going to have abilities, and, like, they're going to do cool things now, and you're going to have to actually learn how to, like, I guess, pull it and kill it. Although most camps are pretty easy to kill, but so the Elder Harpy, they won't have any special abilities, okay, but they will be aggressive, so they're still going to be aggressive. They also decrease the magical protections of them. I think that's just to make it more viable to go like magical junglers and to just clear jungle as a magical character, not just like a mage. Mages already clear the jungle really well, but I'm talking like guardians and, you know, mages in the jungle that have like pretty bad early clear. I think that's just to make it more viable for them. So they decrease their magical protections across the board, but they increase the tankiness of them. And I think what they want to do is make it so that with all these changes that you're about to see, I think they want to make it so the jungler has more of a role in Smite, where the jungler actually maybe has to help you clear camps, or actually has to be the one clearing camps and then ganking, or being the one like doing all of the jungle and being that main role. So red buff, it now has an ability. It's called Berserk. I don't really want to go over like each ability really all that much. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I think the bigger part for all these abilities is we're gonna have to play against them in game and see how to leash it and see how it feels and do all that. I mean, we can go through real quick. Manticore, the red buff, is gonna have a Berserk. It happens when it's below 45% health. It increases its attack speed and it causes players to take more damage over time. So just a little thing that the buff will do. Purple buff, Void Sludge. Sludge is such a weird word, but it's a good word. I'm just whatever. Fires a projectile attack at his target, applying a debuff to the first target aggro's, decreases protections by 20%. With this debuff applied, enemy minions will prioritize you less, even if you deal damage to an enemy god. It lasts 20 seconds, 30-second cooldown. So what they've done with this is they want it to be something that you can kind of manipulate or try to use in duo, because it's the purple buff. So it's when you kill the purple buff, you're still going to have the debuff because it lasts for 20 seconds. You're still going to have the debuff when you walk into lane and start hitting the minions and the enemy god. I think it's just like a little thing that you can... It's actually a debuff that might be good for you, right? Because it's going to allow you to tank the minions, but it's also going to be a little bit weird because you may take too much damage from minions and stuff like that. So dual laners are going to have to mess around with this a lot, because it will be pretty important for that first wave after you walk into the lane with this after purple buff. So speed buff, it's also going to have its own ability. It's called Spear Thrust. Winds up for a powerful thrust, damaging all enemies in the line. Deals 3 times its basic attack damage to enemies within range. So it's going to do a decent amount of damage. But they've also increased the XP gold reward for these camps. And also increased the max health, which again, I think it just goes in line with what I was talking about, where I think they want junglers to be the ones clearing camps for the most part. Jungle camps are really easy to clear right now for anyone on the map, to be honest, besides maybe supports. And I think they're just trying to make it so the jungler has to help with that. And they're doing it. They're increasing the scaling of both the XP and the gold and the health and the protection. So, yeah. Blue buff is going to have its own ability as well. Summon spirits. Up to 4 spirit satyrs will be summoned in to help the satyr shortly after he enters combat. I don't even know if I'm saying that word correctly, but I don't really care. These have very low HP, but can deal a lot of damage if left unchecked. And like I said, it's just something we're going to have to mess around with in the Conquest map. I don't really think any of these like jungle changes are going to change like what gods are viable and all that. I think the camps are still going to be pretty easy to clear, and you're not going to really draft for the PvE for the most part. Like most of the time you're drafting for the PvP. So yeah, this is all PvE changes, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal. Oh, but one big thing about this is that it does not have minis anymore. So you're just going to be hitting a big guy on the blue buff. It's still going to have the same XP and gold, thankfully. I thought when I first read this that it meant that blue buff is getting less gold and XP, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? Sorry, excuse my French. But no, it's still going to have the same gold and XP, but it's just going to be a big guy that you have to worry about, which is, it actually has a little bit of an impact, right? Because, you know, clearing those smalls efficiently is kind of a big deal, and, you know, like, for example, Kama. Let's just take Kama, for example. He wants to get his 2-stack, and sometimes he'll hit the minis if the jungler pulls the buff. Or, you know, it's easier to just focus it down when you can just 2 it instantly and never miss it. You know, it's like, there's some little things that might have some gameplay effect, but not really. Pyromancer has a new ability. It takes a 3-second time to channel it, though, and you can actually CC it, so you can interrupt it. I don't really know what this change is supposed to do. What's the point of a character or a PvE aspect having an ability if you can literally interrupt it and it takes 3 seconds to go off? I don't really think Pyro needed an ability anyway. It already was like, you know, it's like fine. So the oracles have a guarding ritual now. These are not aggressive, by the way, so they won't just come up and attack you, but shortly after being attacked, okay, I feel like I'm going through these, like, who cares? We get it. All these camps have abilities. Okay, they all have abilities. Everybody understand? All right, cool. Like I said, we just got to try it out and see how it feels in in the actual game. Gold Fury has an ability now, and then Fire Giant does as well. I don't know if it says it. So now spawns molten pools when a god enters its attack area. This is what I said before. It becomes aggressive, so if you walk into its area, then it will throw a thing on you. It does have a 30-second cooldown, but I don't really like this change. I don't think this is necessary. It's a big part of the map around Solo Lane, and it's like actually a pretty important thing to walk through as well. And I think that this is just like closing off the map a little bit. Not too much because you can still walk through it, but I think the more you constrict the map like that, and the more areas that you make it harder to walk through, especially like since they're doing it with some of the jungle camps as well with the aggressiveness, it just constricts the map a little bit more and makes it seem smaller than it actually is, right? So yeah, and then Gold Fury also got some stuff, but I don't give a fuck really. So yeah, what they've done this patch as well is they've adjusted physical penetration, specifically percentage physical penetration, to make it like the mage items are now. So what they've done is they basically changed Titan's Bane into what Obsidian Shard is now, where it has 20% pen, but it can overcap on your first ability. Look, you gain 20% physical pen, and it can only occur once every 10 seconds. This is a really welcome change, I think. Before Executioner, it was like the one stop or the single stop like shop item for all of your physical percent pen, and they also nerfed that, which is nice. I think Executioner has probably been the go-to item for 6 seasons. It's still going to be, I think, pretty good, especially because it works on objectives, which is really important for hunters. They also decreased the cost of it, but it's also only going to be 21% per stack, or not per stack, but fully stacked. They've given Atalanta's percent pen on it. They've removed the 10% movement speed, but they also gave it a new passive where if you receive or kill or an assist, like you would on Bloodforged, you gain a stack of, or you gain Atalanta's agility for 10 seconds. This effect increases your attack speed by 20% and decreases the movement speed penalty for attacking, backpedaling, and strafing by 50%. These are all the numbers for it if you want to read it, for like when you're moving. So kind of cool. I think it's actually kind of a cool passive. I don't really know if they needed to change Atalanta's all that much. I think it was like a fun item that people were already buying, but it did make you really, really fast, and movement speed's kind of annoying. So you're still going to get movement speed from this. So, you know, not from the base of it, but from the passive. But pretty cool. I actually think that's a cool change. Rage getting a little bit of a nerf, 2300 to 2400. Definitely welcomed. Rage being bought almost every single game by hunters, and it's kind of just too efficient for what it gives. Ton of crit chance. Silver Branch now has 10% physical pen. They removed the 10 flat pen, obviously. That would be bloated as hell. And they also increased the physical power gain from passive from 1.5 to 2 per stack. This item, and I think I probably talked about it in the last patch notes I made, which is probably like half a year ago. They want this item to work so bad. I hate it, man. I hate it. It's like this. When was it even introduced? It was introduced probably like a year ago, maybe more than that. Never bought, then they buffed it. Still never bought, then they buffed it. Still never bought, then they buffed it. Like, if you if you buff the stats of an item enough, it'll eventually be bought a ton because it's just going to have such bloated stats. This is about to have 10% physical pen on it, 2 power per stack, and they want this passive to work so bad, but I just don't. It's requiring you to be inefficient with your build, basically, except for some characters like Apollo or characters with really good attack speed steroids. It's basically making it so you have to overstack so you get some like benefit out of it. And you might actually now, I mean, that's a lot of power to gain plus 10% physical pen. I mean, the item already had, I think, like 35% attack speed or something on it because it just has a little bit more attack speed because they want it to be good. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of hate the road that this item has taken. So they reduced the attack speed from 10% to 7% on the tier 2 of the tier 2 of like Poison Star Wind Demon. Cool. I don't know. Really, whatever. This is a pretty cool item. So it's Shadow Steel Shuriken, which is basically Toxic Blade, but in a crit form. So the base stats are, it costs 2,500 gold, 20 physical power, 10% attack speed, 20% crit chance. Those are terrible base stats. But it does have a passive that you reduce healing by 40% for 8 seconds every time you crit somebody. Pretty cool, I guess. I feel like maybe unnecessary considering crit was already being bought a ton and Toxic Blade was already an option for ADCs, and you maybe lose a little bit of DPS with Toxic Blade, but you get 30% attack speed and 15 flat pen, which is really, really sick. I don't know if this is necessary, but I guess it's fine. I guess it's just like an option. I don't even know if this item will be bought all that much considering the base stats are pretty terrible. And the passive is maybe worth it, but maybe not. I'm not really sure. It can be worth it. Obviously, anti-heal is really important, but I just feel like maybe having our brawlers and a divine is enough, you know? So I don't really know if this item will be bought when those items will be enough. Poison Star, they decrease attack speed from 15% to 10%, but they also increase the physical power from 30 to 35. Cool. Wind Demon, they also decrease the crit chance from 20 to 15, decrease physical power from 30 to 25. Passive now provides 10% physical penetration in addition to the attack speed and movement speed. Now the passive is insane. And Wind Demon's passive was already really good. That was why you bought it. But now it's also got 10% physical pen on it, which is actually kind of crazy. The base stats are pretty trash now, 15% and 25. But that passive might be a reason to definitely buy it. Especially now that like hunters are going to be able to build... They're going to have percent pen on their first hits of their autos, right? So before, if you only bought Executioner, a lot of times you go Executioner, Titan's Bane, but that's until like late game. But if you only had Executioner, it would take 3 autos till you were like doing, you know, your crazy DPS to tanks, right? Because that's how long Executioner takes to stack for the percentage physical pen. But now that items are going to have percent pen right off the bat. So for example, like Silver Branch, Wind Demon, let's say you just get a crit. Well, maybe you don't say Wind Demon. You say something else. One of these other items that has percent pen on it. I think it's Soul Eater that does. I don't know which item does. Oh, Heartseeker. I don't know. Whatever items you have, you're gonna have percent pen right off the bat. Like on your first auto, your first 2 autos, your first 3 autos are gonna have the most amount of percent pen that you're going for. Unless you're going for Executioner, then it's gonna be a little bit more. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like your autos from the get-go are gonna be efficient. It's not going to take 3 autos for you to start really pumping out the DPS, which is kind of a scary thought for tanks. I feel like I don't know how different it's going to make tanks feel and how squishy they will feel. But I can imagine it'll make them feel kind of squishy. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, moving on. Soul Eater is also getting a change. I wouldn't say a nerf or a buff, to be honest. They decrease the cost from 2300 to 2100, so it's pretty cheap, pretty easy to go for. Decrease power from 40 to 30, remove the 200 mana, add 10% physical pen, but it also provides 5% ability lifesteal even before stacks are completed and the item evolves. So that's kind of nice. So it's basically like a mini Glad Shield, 5% ability lifesteal. Because I think what they're trying to do with this is make it they wanted to like have a little bridge between Glad Shield and Soul Eater. Now that they're removing Glad Shield, which we'll get to pretty soon, they wanted to have this little bridge where you could maybe go this still on some like soul laners that required Glad Shield before, and you maybe get some benefit out of it. You do get 10% physical pen, which will be really good when you're 1v1ing the enemy soul laner, because they're going to be rushing physical defense, and obviously Warrior's Blessing will give you defense. But also they increase the physical ability lifesteal from 15% to 20%. So you're actually going to get a decent amount of ability lifesteal now. The power is going to be reduced, so the trade-off is there where, like, you know, maybe your abilities were hitting harder before because it had more power, which means you were lifestealing more because it's based on how hard your abilities hit. But now your abilities are going to hit a little bit less hard, but they're also going to be increased in healing. So it's probably just, the offset is probably pretty similar. But yeah, I think they just wanted to try and make this more of a viable item for soul laners. And maybe some ability hunters. Maybe ability hunters as well. Because I think ability hunters in general are getting a big buff to this patch with how the percent pen is working, and with how like they just were getting buffs. Like the characters themselves are getting buffs, and some of the items as well. So we're going to have to mess around with Soul Eater, especially in solo, just to see how it affects our role. Because I definitely think it might be something we can mess around with and go... They buffed Heartseeker. Yeah, they buffed Heartseeker, chat. I don't know. They decreased the cost of it by 200 gold. 200 gold is insane. 200 gold is insane. They removed the 10 flat pen. Flat pen is amazing. But you know what's also amazing is percent pen. Now it has 10% physical pen on it. What? You were already buying this item so that assassins could one-shot people late game no matter who they were on the map. If you have Heartseeker Titan's Bane, you will kill tanks like it's nothing as an assassin, right? So now they have 10% physical pen on it. That's just going to make you do more damage to tanks. And you already get so much flat pen in your build as an assassin. You don't really need this 10 flat pen. Plus, the item itself is like, it gives you like, I think 75 power and then that crazy passive. Dude, I don't really understand this change at all. They could have literally kept it the same cost, the exact same cost, remove the 10 flat pen and add 10% physical pen. I would still think it's a bit of a buff, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, you can't really complain. It's just like, you know, it's PTS at the end of the day. But the fact that they think they needed to reduce the cost is kind of Blasphemy. Fail Not now has 10% physical pen on it. I think this item is going to be bought a lot next patch. 20% cooldown, 10% physical pen, a nice passive, 25% crit chance, I think. What is it, like 30 power? I think this item is going to be bought a ton. It's way overstated. Masamune, they removed from the game. That's all you need to know. Serrated Edge has taken its place, which is kind of weird. I think the art for this is pretty cool, but so is this, I guess. So Serrated Edge, this is, I think, the item for the auto attack characters. So what it does is it's 2,400 gold, 40 physical power, 10% lifesteal, 10% movement speed, 20% physical pen. Dude, that is a lot of stats. And of course, in the passive, if all 3 of your non-ultimate abilities are on cooldown, gain 40 basic attack power and 10% lifesteal. Okay. So I think this is like an all-in thing for auto attack characters, right? So when Kali, if she jumps in 3s and 2s, all 3 of her non-ultimate abilities are going to be on cooldown. She's going to gain 40 basic attack power and 10% lifesteal as she's all-inning and going really ham. So that's pretty cool. I think it's going to be good for her. It's going to be good for Baka, I think. You jump in as Baka, you maybe ult, and then 3, and then eat one of your minions, and boom, you're going to have the passive, and you're going to start owning. You don't even have to ult. You could just jump in 3, and then use your 2 on like a minion nearby, and you can go ham as well. So I think this is going to make these auto attack characters pretty nice, but it also could work on Nem, because I think it'd be really, really good on Nem as well, because with Nem, honestly, a lot of characters it could work with, Erlang, but Nem specifically, your auto attack cancels are so sick that you can dash, auto 3, auto 2, dash, and then all 3 of your abilities are going to be on cooldown. You're going to be in the middle of everybody, and you're going to have 40 basic attack power and 10% lifesteal. You are wasting your shield a little bit, but you'll probably get some value out of it. So, interesting item. I think maybe it's a little bustito. And the meta that we're going towards right now with Golden Blade and stuff, I don't really think this is good for the game. Like Golden Blade, Baka, Kali, and all that are already like really sick and ranked right now because Golden Blade is ridiculous. So yeah, Arachne too. Yeah, Arachne is a good example as well. Any auto attack jungler, honestly. I mean, they're already good right now. So yeah, don't really like this item. Warrior items, but finally, yay, we made it. It only took 38 minutes. Holy cow. All right, so warrior items. What you need to know, basically, Gladiator Shield and Berserker Shield are no longer a thing. Finally, it took 3 years or however long they've been in the game. They've dominated the meta for 3 years. They've made some metas fun. They've made some metas horrible, and they're finally out, which is a welcome change. Right off the bat, I will say it's a welcome change. I think removing these items from the game is really good because the problem with these items for the past 3 years is that the meta has been solely dictated by who abuses them the most. Example A, King Arthur, right? So I think it's a good change, and I'll talk about how I think it will affect, but first we can actually go over it. So now it's a tier 3 item, 2,500 gold, 25 physical power, 200 health, 40 physical prot, 10% CDR. Nice little stats, but any god who's under 50% health takes bonus damage for your abilities equal to 15 plus 2 per level, bonus physical damage. Keep in mind, physical damage, which means it can be mitigated by protections. Triggers only once per enemy per ability. So it's just like Glad Shield, only triggers once per ability per enemy. So, I don't know if this is a good item. It's so weird. It's weird that it does it below 50% health. I don't know if that really will warrant buying it, but it's possible. It's possible. I honestly have to mess around with it, see how the damage feels. Because the thing about Soul Laners and like Warriors and even Guardians, but obviously you can't buy this on Guardians, but Warriors specifically, when it gets to that mid to late game and characters have their tank shredding items online, you need a little bit more damage from different sources to actually kill people. You can stall, you can buy time, that's what your job is a lot of the time, but you need a little bit more damage sources to actually finish people off, if you know what I mean. And that's why I think Nemean Thorns was a really good combo last patch, because it gave you just that little bit of extra damage so you could actually kill people, right? Those little yellow numbers that would help. This might be one of those items. This might be one of those items that gives you just a little bit extra damage where you're actually threatening to kill people in the backline and all that. So definitely got to try it out. And if it does help you actually kill people in that mid to late game, just with that little extra damage that you get, then I think you could definitely see it bought. It is a lot of gold though, 2,500 gold. It's more expensive than Urchin. Berserker's Shield, basically the opposite. It's you get benefit when you're an auto attacker when you're below a certain health. 40 power, 30 prot, 20% attack speed, 10% physical pen. 10% physical pen is kind of nice. But if you drop below 40% HP, you become Berserk. Berserk gives 20 physical power and 20% attack speed. Last 5 seconds refreshes on if healed and then redamage. So basically you can just like keep refreshing it and it can keep going, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's basically the auto attack version of this. I don't really think this is going to be bought on solo lane characters. I don't think it's going to be worth it, to be honest. On like Osiris, maybe Bologna, you could see it. And then what other auto attack characters are there? Maybe like Amma. Nah, I don't think you're going to buy this in solo lane. This is more of a another roles item, maybe jungle, maybe ADC. Not really.
I was watching on my TV and needed to hit the computer and bring this up. The serrated blade on AA warriors in the solo like Osiris late game would be really good, no?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it could be decent on them, but you can't really go a damage item like this on those kind of characters already. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think so though. So this is one of the items I'm actually really excited for solo lane. This is probably the only solo lane change that's like a clear buff, in my opinion. Or like an item that's like, okay, now we actually have something to work with. 2,300 gold, same cost as Blackthorn is now, or is that 2,200? I think it's 2,200 actually. So it's the same cost as Frostbound actually. So same cost as Frostbound. 40 power, 300 health, 150 mana, 20% CCR. Let's just throw every stat in the game on it. Why not? And then in the passive, we get it's basically Masamune. So this is the Masamune hammer. For each enemy within 55 units, you gain 10 magical and physical protection, stacking up to 3 times. I think this item is going to be really nice. So if you think about the build right now, or what it was before, especially at the beginning of the season, it was like Glad Shield, Boots, Blackthorn, right? If you do the same exact thing, just replace Glad Shield with like, let's just say, since you're not really going to go the first, that's not going to be your first item anymore. Let's just say Stone of Gaia. Let's just say that's the meta. If you go Stone of Gaia, Boots, the Sledge, you're getting prots from your Warrior's Blessing, so you're actually getting a decent amount of prots. Whenever you're near people like their jungler and their soul laner, you're actually going to get 20 of each prot as well. You're going to have so much extra health. That health combined with the Stone of Gaia passive is going to make you heal a ton. You're going to be healing a lot per second based on the Stone of Gaia passive. 20% CCR is really nice. And it's just got like really good stats overall. And I think that actually might be a viable start to a game, are those 3 items, into like Void Shield, into Magical Defense. And then boom, you're going to be feeling pretty tanky, I think, and doing a decent amount of damage with that build as well. So that's just like a rough draft of like a random build that you can maybe go with this item. But either way, I think this item's the only like true solo lane item buff that I'm like excited about. So Sledge is pretty nice. Assassin's Blessing, they've buffed it a little bit. It gives you physical and magical power now. It also increased the healing from jungle monsters from 7 to 8%, just because I think the jungle camps are going to be a little bit harder to kill now, especially because they decrease the bonus damage that you get from it. So they wanted you to heal a little bit more after you're finished with it. And they also give it some health so you can actually tank it. I feel like Assassin's Blessing has like so many stats on it now. They kept buffing it when it was like a bad meta for junglers. And now the item has like 18 base stats on it. It's got physical pen, movement speed, health, power, healing from it, extra damage to jungle camps. Like, got literally everything in the game. Not literally everything. Don't mean literally. So Warwick Staff increased the base power from 65 to 85. Decreased base power per stack from 1 to 0.8. Total was increased from 140 to 145. Maybe makes it more viable in mid. Just kind of a weird item. It's still, the identity of this item is so weird to me. It's like it gives you 200 health. That's like, it's no longer that bruiser mage item or that item that gives you a little bit of survivability. If you want survivability, go ethereal. So no, I don't really like it. Book of Thoth is getting buffed. Wow. It's because the double penetration build is a little bit too broken right now. So 150 less gold is actually a big buff. So probably see it bought a little bit more. Tyrannical Plate Helm, buffing this item. I think they should just rework this item. I don't think the idea behind this item is really all that strong. They increase the magical power from 70 to 85 and increase the minion health from 10% to 20%. They're gonna do what they did with Silver Branch with this item. They just really want the passive to work, so they're gonna keep buffing it until it's just like a viable item. And whether that's good or not, I'm not really sure. I personally think it's not though, because I don't really like the passive. Decrease time it takes to heal for 15%. From 15% and gain 15% mana from 5% to 3 seconds. Oh, no, okay, for 15%. And yeah, that's for Meal of Renewal. So basically, you just heal a little bit quicker. Don't really know if that changes anything. I think this actually is a nerf, to be honest. Maybe not a nerf, but the reason this item is bad is because of anti-heal in a team fight. So you're just anti-healing it quicker, I guess. So if you have Divine and Brawlers on you, you're basically healing nothing. Maybe it helps a little bit because maybe it helps you survive just because you're getting a little bit more health back per second, or maybe a little bit more mana back per second, because that can't be anti-healed, so that's kind of cool. I guess maybe you get enough mana back instantly so you can use like 2 abilities because you got enough mana for it. Still going to be a bad item. Stone of Gaia. This is actually a pretty cool change. They increased the healing per second from 0.3 to 0.5, so if you think about it mathematically, 0.3 per second would require 3 seconds for you to get to like 1%. Let's just round up. Now it only requires 2 seconds for you to get to 1%. So the overall healing increase there is going to be pretty nasty, especially if you're building a lot of health in your builds, which you're definitely going to this next patch because of how good crit and percent pen is going to be. You're going to need to build a lot of health, and that combined with Stone of Gaia is actually going to heal you a lot. And I think they wanted to buff it because the Soul Lane meta is going to be a little bit different without the sustain shields. But worst change of the patch. You guys ready? Hide of the Nemean line. Nemean is getting its passive completely changed. It no longer reflects damage, which I hate. I personally hate. I think Nemean was a fine item before. A lot of people were hating on it. But if you were to go Thorns Nemean last patch, or the current patch before this update hits, that, like I said, I talked about it before, it gives you enough extra little damage, enough little extra yellow numbers, I guess you could say, where you could actually kill people in the mid to late game when they have their tank shredding items online, if they misplay. I'm not saying the Soul Laners aren't supposed to kill like 1v2 in the late game. That's not their job, right? They're supposed to buy time, initiate. They're supposed to get killed if they're playing poorly, right? But I think, personally, the ADC and the mage should have to play it pretty well in order to do that. And I think that this item kind of punished them for playing it poorly, or if they didn't get peel or anything like that. And now it doesn't do that. The new passive is every 15 seconds, this item generates a black stack for the owner. And guess what? There's a max of 1 stack. And the cooldown on it is 10 seconds, I think? Wait, what is it? No, it's 15 seconds. Wait, never mind. I'm thinking of a different item. So 15 seconds it takes to restack it.
Gods like to G though?
Mad Lad, kind of. I guess kind of, but if you, I don't really like, you're not really, like if there was a dodgy jungle on the enemy team and you were to rush Hide of the Nemean, then it'd be like, okay, yeah, if she ever ganks you, maybe she doesn't get like her Hydra's proc off, or she doesn't get her like 1 hit off. Is that really worth it? No, I don't think that's worth it at all, to be honest. But as far as like it being a counter ADC item, I think this item's terrible for it. And it is pretty troll that it's only 1 stack. Plus, if you know somebody has a Nemean, you can just walk up and hit it. Like if you had a Daji and the enemy Soul Laner built Nemean, you would just like tell your Soul Laner to just hit him and be like, okay, now I can go on him. So, yeah, I'm not really happy about this change, but it is what it is. All right, Ring of Kate. This item actually was getting bought at least a little bit after they buffed it and changed it. But they do this with items a lot where they'll rework it, and then it will finally be being bought. It will finally be bought by a lot of people, and then they rework it again. So that's what they've done. It now has 80 power on it. It costs 2,500 gold, 80 power, 30% attack speed, 20% lifesteal. And the new passive is each successful basic attack applies a hex to enemies and empowers you. Enemies receive 5% decreased power per stack. You receive 5% increased power and increased healing gain. So I think a 10% overall swing. Both effects stack up to 3 times and stacks last 5 seconds. So it's a 30% overall swing. So you take 15% of their power and you get 15% power. I think it's a 30% swing, which is pretty insane. That's a pretty good item. That's a pretty good item, I think. If it's a 30% swing, I think that item's pretty crazy. So maybe this brings back some mage ADCs. Because they already got buffed as well. Soul, I think, got buffed. Freya got buffed. Kronos got buffed. Like, all their auto attacks got buffed as well. So, Divine, they are nerfing these flat pen options a little bit. They decreased the flat pen from both of them from 15 to 10. But they also increased the power of Divine Rune from 80 to 90. Which, okay. I don't know if it needed it, but I think just to offset it a little bit. Spear of Deso is like such a broken item. Everyone was buying it, so just a flat-out nerf, decreasing the pen, which is welcomed and good. But it's also a nerf to Soul Landers because going this item on some Guardian Solos is actually really, really good for diving backlines. Now, Spear of the Magus. You guys ready for this? Holy cow, this item. 2450 gold. So pretty, I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. It's just right there in the middle. Costs the same as Height of the Urchin, I think. Maybe 50 gold more. 110 power. That's a lot of power. 10 flat pen. That's nice to back up that power. And then the passive, any god you damage becomes marked and debuffed to take 7.5% increased damage from all sources for 10 seconds. This effect can only affect one god at a time and can only occur once every 10 seconds. That's where I got that 10 seconds from. Okay. Let's just block. Let me see here. No, I don't know how to do this. Can I do it on here? No, I can't. Whatever. Like, everyone stop looking at the passive for a second. For 2450 gold, you get 110 power and 10 pen. Tell me, if this item didn't have a passive, I'm not saying you would buy it every game, but think about, would you consider an item if it cost 2450 gold and it gave you 110 power and 10 pen? Let's just say it did. Let's just try and do this. Boom. There you go. No passive. Like, would you consider buying it? I'm not saying you would buy it every game because Spear of Deso is still an option. It's the same pen, same power, but you get an actual passive out of it. But what if you went both items? What if you went Spear of Deso and this item? The base stats alone on this item warrant it to be bought. You don't even need a passive. And this passive is just a little extra thing, which is pretty nice. This is really good for the mid 3v3, because if you buy Spear of the Magus, and the Guardian CC somebody for you, and then you use an ability on them, or auto them, boom. The jungler's going to be doing more damage to them, the support's going to be doing more damage to them, you're doing more damage to them, you're all just going to blow up that whoever you're hitting really fast. It's usually going to be a support. So the mid 3v3 with this item is going to be pretty good, and obnoxious. And again, 2450 gold for these stats, I think is too much. Warrior Tab now provides 100 mana. Actually, cool change. The smaller changes I'm actually... usually the smaller changes I like more, because I think this is actually a really cool change. Just because there were some soul laners that were really, really mana hungry that like would be really nice with Ninja Tabi, but aren't good with attacks.
Can't
for example,
wait to
like
see
Thor.
You dominate in the new solo meta. Oh yeah, and maybe if we are lucky, King Arthur will finally go away now for a little bit.
Yeah, Tev, thanks for the $5. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, hopefully he will for a bit, but he'll still probably hang around with the new Soul Eater. So Warrior Tab by 100 mana, just like a nice little change that I think is cool. For example, I was going to say Thor. Thor's pretty mana hungry. You always go Warrior Tab on him. Just a nice little addition there. Might help out. You can now teleport to Phoenixes with TP. Awesome. Curse Donk. So these are two pretty cool changes that specifically affect this meta. Curse Donk you can actually use to affect shields now. When applied, this relic now reduces active shields by 50%. So, you know, I guess like, let's just say a horse ults into the middle of a fire giant. You instantly Curse Donk and all the shields they got from it are going to be reduced by 50%. So pretty cool. Just a little option for playing against shields. Although I don't know if they need to do both of these. Shell is pretty prevalent in the meta right now as well, so I think that's part of the reason they did it, but I think it's really good because it blocks auto attacks, not because of the shield itself. So the Shell is really, really potent because of the upgraded version, but whatever. This relic now destroys shields when applied, so if you sunder somebody, boom, the shield's instantly gone. So if you think, the first person that comes to everybody's mind is Nike. So if a Nike ults and gets 60% of her health in her shield, I don't think that's actually it, or is it? I don't know. It's a big portion of her health, right? It's a huge shield. You sunder it and it's instantly gone. Okay. I don't know if that's necessary. I think they probably could have just had Curse Donk and not done the Sunder, or done the other one. They could have just done Sunder and not done Curse Donk. But either way, cool, I guess. I actually don't know if this will completely take Nike out of the meta. No troll. Because if you blink, let's just say in solo, if you blink ult as Nike to start a team fight, even if they, like, a lot of the time when you blink ult as Nike, that slow that you get from that 6-second slow, that's basically a root because it slows them so much, is a really, really good initiation. And sometimes they don't even immediately turn on you. Maybe it's because you have a huge shield and they don't want to turn on you, and maybe now they could sunder you with an upgraded sunder and boom, like try and instantly kill you, and that would suck. But that would require somebody on their team to get sunder and upgrade it. Their support, maybe their support would go up, but he has good actives to go as well that he wants to have. So I actually don't know if this will completely take her out of the meta, to be honest, because her blink initiation will still be really, really good. We'll see though. It probably will make her pretty bad. Okay. I mean, we're so far into this video that I don't even know if I want to go over the rat changes. Basically, he has his acorns back, or at least some version of his acorns back. And this character is going to be definitely viable in solo now with the changes.
Do you think solo will be taken over by mages like Jong and Baron with all the new changes?
Yeah, I think so, Spork. I think Guardian Mage meta will probably be a thing next patch. This patch, because of all the changes, yes. So anyway, he has different acorns. He has Evergreen Acorn, he has the Thick Bark Acorn, and he has the Brittle Bush Acorn and Thistlethorn. Jesus Christ. So yeah, Evergreen Acorn. This is the one that I think is going to be pretty crazy in solo. When Ratatasker damages a god with an ability, he heals for 7% of his maximum health and mana. 7%. What kind of number is that, bro? That's a little bit too much. Obviously, 35 power, 20% movement speed, just because, you know, let's just make his movement speed a little bit more. Let's just make his items give a little bit more movement speed. 15% maximum health. So you get an extra 15% maximum health, but you also get extra 7% healing. So if you just build a bunch of health in his build, you can be healing so much per ability. I'm talking like 300 in ability.
Thoughts on Bacchus solo? More prots and healing on each minion plus new katana and berserker's shield.
No. He'll get out traded and owned by tank characters too much. Dark Marine, that's how he's always been. Anyway. Yeah, there's just some other acorns that do some stuff. I don't know. I'm not really too excited about it. I don't really like Rat as a character, so yeah. One of them is I think basically what he used to have. What is it? Is it Bristlebush? Oh yeah. So his dart can now crit. It does a 40% increased damage and can crit when dart damages an enemy. Ratatasker gains 10% physical lifesteal and 10% basic attack damage for 6 seconds. Wait, where's the one where it? I thought there was one where dart you get an extra charge. Either way, so yeah, now it can crit. Yeah, I don't know. Cool. Too many things to read. I just want to play it, you know what I mean? I'm sorry. Alquan getting buffs. So now we're on to actual god changes. Obviously, Ratatasker starting up first because he is getting a kind of a rework with his acorns. And then we're on to the actual god changes and buffs and nerfs and all that. So Alquan getting buffed. Dragon Call, which is his 2. When you throw it, increase the slow on it from 20% to 30%. Kind of cool. It's kind of a cool buff. And they decrease the cooldown from Wild Storm from 9 seconds to 7 seconds. I think like historically speaking, Alquang his 3 has been changed so much. It's gone from like a low cooldown to a higher cooldown, back to a low cooldown, back to a really high cooldown. Now it's down to like 7 seconds. So I guess they're just like kind of seeing what worked in the past for him to be good. Serenade, which is his 2, increase the pros you get from it it scales from 10 to 30 to 15 to 35, and then the mes duration from 1.1 to 2.3 to just starting out at 1.5, which is kind of a pretty big buff. And they also increase the scaling of Across the Sky from 120 to 160%. Dude, that hits hard because it hits 4 times, obviously. So that is a hard hitting ability. Artio getting buffed. Why? Why is Artio getting buffed? I'm not sure. She was already pretty viable in support, in my opinion. And honestly, I think she's viable in solo too, but nobody wants to play her. Like, no troll. I mean, you could play her. I bet you could play her literally every single game in solo, and you would do well. You would do fine. So I don't know, kind of weird. I thought she was viable in support anyway, and in solo, but they increase the druid damage, which is her, I believe her 1, so the 2 hits of it or whatever. Is it that? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the. Oh no, druid is not the druid is the freaking human form, isn't it? So they increase the damage of the 1, which is the heal. And they also increase the range from 55 to 65, which is kind of cool. That's actually helping out with healing people nearby you that didn't get the heal before, because it's just like so short range. And they also increase the slow of heavy charge, which is her 3, obviously. The dash form and the bear form is 20% at the rank 1. Pretty gnarly. Baba Yaga getting more buffs. Dude, this character is already busted. People aren't playing her. They don't know how to play her. The more people play her, they'll learn. This character is so good. Just stop. Don't buff her. Please. Oh. The current patch Baba Yaga is on, with the current patch, she is amazing. She is a really good character. Okay? She does not need these buffs. She doesn't. People just need to learn how to play her. Give it some time. Bakasura, increased physical power scaling on the self. Bro, they're buffing Baka? What? Like I said, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but this is like my first real time reading through the patch notes. I like skimmed through them, but I didn't really pay too much attention, you know. Like, it's off season right now. I got better things to do. No, I'm just kidding. but for real, I didn't really read through it all that much, and now I'm actually reading through it. And now I've come upon a Baka buff when all of his items are insane right now. There's other items being introduced that are going to be really good on him, like Serrated Edge. The meta is going to favor him because he's really good at clearing jungle camps, and they're changing all the jungle camps to make it a little bit harder to kill them and also a little bit more interesting. And they're actually buffing him as well. Not really that big of a buff, but a buff nonetheless. 42 prots, actually. That's actually a 12 prot increase. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't think they needed to buff him. He was already being played in every single ranked game with Golden Blade, you know, so it's whatever. Fuck it, I don't care. Baron Samedi's one already hits really hard, and they're buffing it even harder. So now it goes from 80 to 90 to 250, 240, whatever. So basically a 10 damage buff across the board. Wrap it up! Increase scaling from 5% to 8%. So 40% total because it's a ticking ability. Excuse me. Wrap it up. That's what I always say. Gator's bitch is better by using Jimmy's. Anyway, yeah, so they buff Baron's 1. You max your 2 in solo because it goes down in cooldown, increases the heal, increases the damage by a lot. So the fact that it hits harder at rank 1 is pretty nice, but I think Baron was already decent in solo, but regardless of if, say he didn't get changed at all this patch, he was already going to be better because of all the nerfs to like warriors and all the changes on the map and all that. I think this character was already going to be a lot better next patch. So a buff plus the changes, I think he'll be pretty meta. Kraken. Okay, so now he gets an actual instant tick of damage on his 3. Right? Which is cool, I think, because the way you think about it, I mean, if you just think about it like, oh, what is that going to do? Like the ticks or the damage per tick isn't really all that much. Like it's like 30 or something, right? It's really not going to do all that much just because you get one extra tick of it right at the beginning. But what it does do is it instantly applies on hit items or items like Soul Reaver, like Soul Gem if you have that for whatever reason. Ethereal. You walk up in the middle of a team fight, click 3, you instantly get Soul Reaver procs on like 3 people if there's anyone near you, right? So that's actually kind of nice, a nice little boost to his damage, and maybe if they instantly interrupt it, at least you'll get like those things off. So Cerberus up next. Cerberus, I think already viable and pretty good, to be honest. He was a counter pick in solo, which is what he should be, I think. And I think you could play him in support if you wanted to. Maybe a little bit underwhelming in support, just a little bit. So these buffs are nice for him. They are the same cooldown, the Paralyzing Spit and the Soul Explosion, which is his 2 and his 3, or his 1 and his 3. Which is kind of cool, I guess, that they're the same cooldown. But Cerberus is a cool character, and I would say that he's not one of the more frustrating characters in the game. Maybe his damage overall is kind of frustrating for a Guardian. So the fact that they were trying to make a meta, I think is fine. The only thing that's frustrating about him is his crazy damage. But he does take skill to play. Like his 1 is pretty hard to hit. And if somebody can hit his stun consistently, then I think they deserve to do well on him. So the problem with Cerberus is, and always will be, is that he's huge. He's a fat hitbox. And late game, he is just so slow and clunky that he is just so easy to kill. I hate playing Cerberus late game. It's honestly probably one of the worst characters in the game late game. Because people have Magi, so you're not going to be able to ult them. Your damage falls off super hard. You're going to get insta-killed by tank shredding items. You're a big clunky character that can be easily killed. Unless you're the second one in, that's why I think he's a little bit better in support. Because if your soul laner initiates and then you go in and you can get some damage off and you're the second one in, then it's nice. But as a solo laner, a lot of times you have to be the first one in and initiating all the fights and doing all that kind of stuff. And he is terrible at that late game. Tyronn, this is what I was talking about. Some of these ability hunters are getting buffs, so You're going to see them more. Chiron increase the training exercise damage. It's the same top end damage, but rank 1 it does 100 damage instead of 80. That's insane for level 1 clear and for level 1 poke, especially for Panda Cat, because Panda Cat maxes his 2, so this is going to do a lot of damage from the get-go. And they also increase the scaling of Masterful Shot, which is his 2, from 70% to 80%. Definitely, I think Chiron's going to be played even more now, just because I think his cleanse is underrated in general. And his ult, people are playing Rama right now. I mean, for plenty of reasons, Rama's just a really good character. But Rama's ult is really, really good, and it allows you to do a lot of cool things in team comps for like diving the backline. Chiron does a similar thing. His ult is really good for diving the backline as well because it goes so far. So it's really good follow-up. And I think he'll definitely be played a lot next patch. Same thing with Cupid. He's getting a buff to his Heart Bomb. So now his clear isn't going to be so terrible because it's going to do an extra 50% damage on the explosion and on the initial hit. So it's going to be a lot easier to clear minion waves. Cthulhu, the broken character. I thought at first he would be just like fine. I didn't think he was going to be OP. Then I started playing against him more. Then I started learning him more. And then I realized that his ultimate is the most broken thing to ever be released in Smite. Quite possibly ever. And what are they doing to him? What are they doing to him this patch? Cthulhu can no longer use Relic Swallow in his ultimate. Oh, okay. That solves everything. Perfect. Pack your bags. Pack the bags, chat. We're good. Character's bad now. No, I'm just kidding. I like to give higher shit because it's funny. I mean, I think it's fine. Like, the character's cool, and I think it's fine to have him be pretty good for a while. Apparently he's getting nerfed in bonus patch. Okay. Fair enough. So he's getting nerfed in the bonus patch, which maybe we can go over, but yeah, this character runs people down. There's nothing to do to get away from him. But yeah. Anyway, Medusa, another ability hunter that's getting a pretty big buff. Viper Shot now has 4 charges at all ranks. This ability is insane, dude. This ability was already really, really good. Especially if you maxed it, you do so much damage with it, but now it has 4 charges. That's going to give you so much extra damage at rank 1. This ability is crazy. Increase the scaling from 70% to 80%, increase the range from 40 to 45. There is this weird range where you like backpedal and you use your acid spray, which is your 2 on Medusa, and it doesn't hit the wave. So it's kind of embarrassing. Sometimes I do it, but now it has a little bit extra range, and I think it'll fix that little issue because, you know, you want to backpedal on Medusa because you get no reduced movement speed penalty or whatever, or at least you don't get as much as other characters. I think your side strafing is where it's not reduced at all, but it'll help with like backpedaling and using your 2, which is cool. And then the last rate, which is the 3, her dash, the root increases 0.5 to 1 second. That's a big increase. A 1 second root's pretty crazy. So overall, good buffs for Medusa, I think. She hasn't been played in a while, and these are small yet impactful changes, I think, on each ability. So like 0.5 is actually not that small, but it's like a little change that you don't really notice until you play it. Same thing with this small change that's going to help, and then this one I think is the most noticeable. 4 charges is actually pretty crazy. That's a lot of increased damage. Mulan, they made it easier to upgrade her abilities, which is welcomed. I think the quicker you can upgrade these, the more useful she'll be in the mid game, and they also increase the protections of her 3, which is nice. And they also increase the arrow scaling on her ult. Dude, I think the arrow on Mulan ult, first of all, I think Mulan's already viable, and I think she's a fun character and cool character, so it's cool that they're adding some buffs to her, and I think she actually might be like the new King Arthur because she heals so much from her 2. But I think her arrow ult should hit like a fucking truck, man. I think the beginning of her ult should hit for like a 50 damage, right? And then the knock up of her ult should maybe hit for another 50 damage. But the arrow part of her ult, dude, that should hit for like 9,000 damage. It should hit so hard. It is such a cool like ability and fun to use. Obviously not for 9,000, but it should hit really hard in my opinion. And they're also increasing the scaling of it, which is cool. They've done to Neath what they should have done years ago. You now get the attack speed that you steal or that you reduce from your enemies. So you decrease attack speed buff. They decreased it from 30% to 18 to 30. And they also made it so that you actually get the attack speed. So you steal the attack speed from enemy gods, only decreasing their attack speed and buff Neath by the same amount. And they also adjusted the buff duration from 2 to 6 seconds to 4 seconds at all ranks. And if you hit multiple gods, it only apply to one of them. The actual stack to you. It'll debuff all of them, right? You'll still get the attack speed debuff on all of them, but you'll only get one of the buffs. So they also increased the backflip animation and travel time. So they sped it up a little bit. Did I say increase? I meant to say increase the speed of it. So 25%. Going to be a little bit quicker on the backflip, a little less telegraph, which is actually pretty good for her. I think this character will be pretty good next patch, especially in mid, dude. Neath mid is underrated. Nemesis. Why are we buffing her? Question mark. Baka, same thing. These characters are already single, like handily going to be meta because of a single item and because they're already buffed, and we're buffing them even more. Nem literally just got buffed last patch. Didn't even give it like a few weeks to see if it would be okay. Maybe. But yeah, they're buffing our slice and dice. More damage at level 1. This is deceiving because it hits twice. Keep that in mind. So this isn't just a 10 power or 10 damage buff. It's a 20 damage buff because it hits twice. Okay. Cool. Anyway, Ola Ron is getting buffed as well. They increase the damage of his overflowing divinity, which is his 2, from 40 to 100 to 60 to 120. But they also increase the damage decrease because the longer it goes out and the longer you get hit by it, the less damage it'll do. They increase so basically this is like the front end damage. If you auto attack cancel, throw out your 1 and then throw out your 2 instantly and like get it like 2 hits of or 2 ticks off on somebody, you're gonna do a little bit more damage to them. So I think it's fine. I think it's a fine change. Don't know if it was needed, but kind of feel like some of these changes are some unneeded changes at this patch. Set, baby. This is something I'm looking forward to. Set buffs. So Relentless, which is your passive, it goes from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. I don't think it's too important in solo because that's probably going to fall off a lot of the time when you're just like running in between waves and stuff like that. More of a jungle change, I think. But this skewer change and the spawn of set change is actually really, really nice. Just overall increased damage, a lot of increased damage. So it goes from 70 to 250. Now it's going to be 85 to 285. That's a big damage increase, 35 at the top end, 15 at the bottom end. They also increase the scaling of it. Good overall late game, but also good in the early game, especially for clearing the waves. Once you have it fully maxed, it's going to be a little bit easier for poking, clearing waves, and then doing damage late game with it as well. Because with a good set solo build, in my opinion, you should have some damage items and some like maybe a Heart Seeker. And if you throw out your skewer with maybe a spawn of set and you actually hit somebody in the late game, especially on like sieging and stuff like that, it's going to be a lot of extra poke. That's going to be really nice. Wukong's getting buffed. They increase the percentage HP where his passive triggers from 40% to 50%, increase the duration of his passive self buff if he heals above 50% from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. They just keep buffing this passive, man. And they increase the Tiger Stun from 1 to 1.4 to 1.4 at all ranks. I don't know. Don't think it's going to do anything. Maybe he's more viable in jungle or support for this reason. And maybe he's more viable in solo in general because of all the changes, and he doesn't really need Glad Shield. Wukong definitely does not need Glad Shield. He could go like Soul Eater and go that route, especially with the buffs to that this patch. So it might be good on him, and you might be seeing a Wukong meta because that might be a fun item on him. But this is another like example of like Silver Branch where they just like take a passive and just keep, or not a passive, but they take something and just keep buffing the numbers and all that. And I think this passive was already pretty good, to be honest. I don't know if that was something that needed to be changed. So, but Wukong is a fun character, so I'd rather see them buff Wukong than buff King Arthur. Sylvanas getting buffed. I think this makes sense. He hasn't been meta for a while and just been kind of easy to kill and kind of trash. They've increased his overall damage on his Wrath of Terror, which is his ult, and his Wisp, which is his 2. So if you do go on him, maybe he can return a little bit more damage and actually be more threatening. So nice little small changes I think is definitely welcomed. Thoth coming up next. This is one of the weirdest changes in the entire patch. What you need to know, there's some weird numbers here that we'll talk about in a second, but what you need to know about this change is that Thoth, his poke is nerfed. Basically, they just nerfed his poke. This damage increase will affect all enemies, not just gods. Increase scaling damage from 20% to 25%, but they added fall off damage past 55 reducing the damage by 25%. So basically, if you're closer to somebody, you do more damage, but you're farther, like real far away, you do 25% less damage. So, kind of the entire reason you pick Thoth, the whole reason the character is what he is, long range poke, long range artillery, like a fun character where if you hit your skill shots, you actually do a lot of work. If you don't hit your skill shots from a long range through walls and stuff like that, you're going to be absolutely useless, and you're going to be really easy to kill. You know what I read? Okay, I read this. I was reading this change on Reddit, right? Reddit. We all love Reddit, right? Reddit.r/smite, right? I love everybody on Reddit. Keep that in mind before I shit talk all of you. And the top comment, it had like 100 upvotes, right? They were like, oh, this is a fine change because Thoth, you can't have Thoth be good because he's too safe. They said he's too safe. They said his escape is one of the best escapes in the game. That's what they said, and it had like 100 upvotes, right? I cannot stress enough how easy Thoth is to kill. He is one of the easiest mages to kill in the game. His dash is not CC immune. It's so easy to interrupt or to avoid. You can chase him down. It's a long cooldown. If you see a Thoth dash in a team fight and you're not a jungler or a solo laner, and you're not instantly blinking on them or instantly going on them, then you just don't know how to play the game. I'm sorry. If you think Thoth is a safe character, I just don't think you really know how to play the game. No offense. Don't take it the wrong way. There's always ways to improve. You can watch my YouTube. It'll help a lot. Anyway, this character is super easy to kill, and I just don't really understand this change in general. Like, he's kind of a annoying character to have meta, but for the most part, like, I don't know if when you change characters like that, I don't think you should remove their identity, and I think this kind of does. So, bad change. Ymir, dude. Ymir's just going boom, boom, back to back, dude. Each patch, I feel like I see another Ymir buff. You know what I mean? They increased the duration of Frostbite, which is passive, from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, and then they also increased the damage reduction from 10% to 15%. Maybe they did this because his metrics were low, but I thought after they made the change to his wall and all the other stuff that they've done, where your ult now goes off when you die. What else have they done? They've done some other stuff. They've buffed his passive already. I think this is like the second or third time they've buffed his passive. Because it used to not even have damage reduction on it, but I think they made that change like maybe a year ago. I don't know. Not really too sure. But Ymir is a skillful character. He's pretty easy to counter. You can avoid his abilities with spacing. You can burst him down because he's kind of slow. So another character that I think is definitely welcome to be buffed. But I think he was already like chilling. I think he was like a fine pick before, but yeah. I guess that's it. Can somebody link me the bonus patch so we can go over that real quick? Anybody have the bonus patch? Those are my thoughts on the solo lane. So to quick recap real quickly, in a quick manner, a recap of what this means for us solo laners and maybe just in the game in general. I think the meta is going to be heavily Guardian and Mage favored. I think the fact that Gladiator Shield and Berserker Shield aren't going to be really a thing anymore are very, very bad for Warriors, because Warriors, I think in general, the reason they were so strong is the mid game, when they would rotate and have a huge lead because they were able to abuse Glad Shield. For example, like King Arthur, Cuchulainn, all of those characters can abuse Glad Shield really hard. They can get really big leads around blue buff fights, and they can rotate to a mid fight and just dominate because they're really far ahead, or at least, can heal a lot and do all that crazy stuff. I don't think they're going to be able to do that really anymore. I do think this will open up the meta as well. Some people are afraid that it will cause a healer meta, right? Because the healing items are gone. But that's not... I think yes and no. Because one, it was already kind of a healer meta. The characters would abuse Glad Shield the most, abuse Berserker Shield before when it was like decent. And also had healing in their kit, were usually the best. Like they were usually really good as well. Like for example, Achilles was meta for so long because he had healing in his 2 and he proc Glad Shield so much. So like it was already kind of a sustained meta for the past 3 years. But I don't think this will instantly make like Chang'e and Hell or like characters like that really, really good. Camazotz is something that maybe comes to mind. Like he'll be probably a lot better this patch, and I do think that is true. But in general, I think it's a good change for the solo, and I think it'll open up the meta a lot more. And I think this little Soul Eater thingy, is kind of like a mini Glad Shield. I say mini even though it costs more and it's not even like the same. It doesn't give you any prots or anything like that. You still get CDR from it, which is good. I still think that this might be something we can mess around with on like King Arthur's, on like Wukong's, maybe even like Achilles and stuff, and you might actually see some benefit from it. But obviously not going to be nearly as good as Glad Shield, because a percentage ability lifesteal is going to be a lot worse on characters who are building full tank. That's the problem with Soul Eater in general, is that if you build full tank, you don't get any value out of Soul Eater because your abilities aren't hitting as hard, which means you're not healing as much, which means that your Glad Shield is just going to be a lot better because it's a percent of your health instead of a percent of the damage you're doing. But in general, I think, yeah, like I said, pretty welcome changes for solo. I think it'll spice some things up. If we do see a Mage and Guardian meta, that will open up for more greedy picks as well. So you'll see more sets, you'll see more, maybe some assassins, and it just won't be it won't just be King Arthur, Osiris, Cuchulainn, Mulan, blah, blah, blah. Those gods every single game, which is good. And here are the bonus patch notes. Go over these real quick with some extra skins. They increased the cooldown of Undying Love from 90 to 70 to just 90 at all ranks. Thank the Lord, dude. Aphrodite nerfs are welcome at every opportunity. We should nerf Aphrodite. Just take her out of the game. Cthulhu, this is what you were talking about. They increased the cooldown of Descendant of Madness from 100 to 120. That's a really good change. I like that. I mean, it was like such a busted ultimate. It's like one of the best ultimates in the game, and it does so many things, and it had like the same cooldown as I don't know. Give me another ultimate that has a 100-second cooldown. But yeah, it had the same cooldown even though it was much more busted. Oh, I need to go full screen. And they removed the damage mitigation during the intro. That's kind of interesting. I guess you can maybe burst them down during that animation because it's a decent amount of time. And then they also reduced the ally healing from 10% to 14% to 8 to 12%. I already walked him. I walked him and fed him. Get out, Aiden. Go. So they just increased the healing on the 3. It was a pretty busted heal, to be honest. So these are good nerfs. Like I said, character is fun and it's going to bring a lot of hype to the game, so I think it's fine to just leave it as it is for a little bit. Not leave it as it is, but slowly nerf him is what I mean. You don't need to just completely butcher him, but definitely nerf him in a good amount because he is going to be running casuals for a while. They nerfed Heim as well, which is good. He's been pretty OP lately. Usually the bonus patch is catered towards SPL, and I think that's what you're going to see right now because Afro, Heim, Hell are all getting nerfs, and that's usually like Grandmaster's ranked. That's where you see these characters the most. And they decreased the knockback strength from 350 to 300, so you're just going to get knocked up a little bit less, and then they also increased the base time from 0.5 to 0.8, so on the Bifrost, you're just going to TP a little bit slower, which is nice because sometimes he will just instantly TP out of any situation. It's really annoying. So just a little bit more counterplay to him. Maybe you can interrupt him in it a little bit easier to get him out of it. So Decay, Restoration, decreased damage from 70 to 270 to 60 to 260. So that's for 1. When she throws that hits really hard. So and it counts for both the light and the dark. So it's a double nerf there. And they decreased the light scaling, the healing scaling from 30% to 25%. So overall, just good nerfs to Hell. Very, very unfun character to play with and against. It's just kind of, she's just silly, and it's good that they're nerfing her. Joram decreased basic attack damage from 11.2 to 9.6. That's a huge nerf, dude. That is so much extra damage reduced across the entirety of a game. This is a big nerf to him, which is welcome because he got a big buff when Warrior's Blessing was changed, and I think they did need to nerf him. He was going to get out of hand, especially in the next meta. They also nerfed Nike straight up, which is weird because I think the Sunder and Cursed changes were going to be a nerf enough for her, but nonetheless pretty annoying character. So they decreased the damage at rank 1 for this character but increased the damage at rank 5, I guess because you don't put points into it. Or I guess you don't put points into it right away. It's the second ability you put points into, and it was just doing a little bit too much damage on the rank 1 where you're just like instant canceling it. I guess that makes sense. It does do a lot of damage at rank 1. 85 was pretty nice. And they also decreased the slow duration, from 6 seconds to 4 to 6. So it scales up to 6 instead of just being at 6. Yeah, Nike's dead. Nike's dead. I was saying before that she may not be dead because her initiation will still be insane. But the fact that they nerfed this by 2 seconds is a pretty big deal. They nerfed this. And the fact that Sunder and Cursed are there, she's going to be pretty bad now. I don't know if she's quite dead, but definitely not nearly as good. Lurking in the Water is getting nerfed. They decreased the protection gain from 30% to 20%. I guess Sobek was doing too well. He wasn't really meta in solo anymore. Yamoja, who was already going to be countered by Cursed really hard because her healing would be reduced and the shields that she would get would be reduced. She's also getting nerfed. Shield decreased from 160 to 30 to 130, so a pretty small shield now, and decreased movement speed from 20/40 to 10 to 30. So just some numbers nerfs, which are really good for her. And I think in general she was going to be a lot less potent with the Cursed Ankh. But either way, I think the reason she's so good is because she can just, especially like early, like her lane pressure early on with her 1 is ridiculous. Her ult's really, really good. Her healing late game is pretty nice, but I don't think that's the reason you pick her for the most part. Her shields are really nice as well, but I think it's just the fact that she has so much pressure, and it's kind of crazy they didn't change her 1 at all. They just nerfed those other abilities, but sometimes that's what they do. That's what they prefer to do. But yeah, you can still click 1. You can still do what you've always done on Yamoja, which is this. That's all you got to do. So the character's still going to be good. Anyway, that is the bonus patch as well. So we have gone over the bonus patch, and I knew you guys would make that sexual. We've gone over the bonus patch, and we've gone over the actual mid-season patch. Kind of give it my thoughts on everything. Talked about it from a solo laner's perspective, and yeah. Gonna wait till PTS to mess around with some stuff. I definitely want to get a feel for the items and the changes, especially with the jungle buffs and all that. And then I can tell you guys what the builds are going to be. I'll make a video on what to be building. I'll make a video on what to be playing, how things that are going to change as far as the meta, the gods that you want to play, all that good stuff. But for now, as far as I can see, I think we're just going to have to play it out and see how things feel and all that before I give you a set idea on things. But I did give you guys my general thoughts, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. And yeah, be on the lookout for those guide videos once the mid-season patch hits. And I love you all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.